you here.
Thanks. Hang out with a bunch of crazy people from the press in the corner here.
She sang one of your songs on air on our radio program, yeah.
Did I get any, how do you say, royalties for it?
I think he probably did.
Here we go again!
Well, what's next for you? What's next for Haddaway?
Right now, myself and Dr. Alban, we've got a track on the market called I Love the 90s. It's doing very well in Scandinavia. Hopefully the lovely curly-headed, red-headed Irish girls are all there.
Yes, it's the greatest interview broadcast on Irish radio ever, quite possibly, in fact probably around the world, and that is the greatest question that's probably ever been asked. What next for Haddaway indeed, Ken? He's hooking up with Dr. Alban, which is good news. Another bit of a legend of Euro dance pop of the 1990s. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and he went into a lot of detail, actually, Haddaway, about his current career in life, because obviously it's been happening, maybe from our perspective, in some obscurity. But the truth is that Haddaway is huge throughout the former Soviet Empire, where I imagine his music might sound quite futuristic. He talked excitedly of the gigs he's recently played in Irkutsk, Novosibirsk, Ekaterinburg gained the brief notoriety just after the Russian Revolution when the Romanov family was executed in a basement there. Sort of slipped out of the limelight in the intervening near century, but Haddaway's been out there, and he says it's incredible out there. I mean, the money that's out there, pretty much everyone is an oil baron in his telling, and obviously a man of his talent has made some influential friends. He says his best friend, well, he also said his best friend was Frank Rijkaard, but his best friend, I suppose, maybe in the economic sense, turned out to be Oleg Deripaska, who you might know as one of the richest men in Russia. I mean, he's one of the richest oligarchs around. Formerly an according to Haddaway, he pays for everything for me. They kind of have a sort of joshing humor where Deripaska owns a yacht which is nearly 180 feet. Haddaway seemed to suggest that he himself owned a yacht of a comparatively more modest 60 feet. So Deripaska would kind of nudge Haddaway and say, hey, why can't you drive that little yacht of yours up to the beach, and maybe we can pick us up because my yacht's too big to come into the beach, And Haddaway would go, yeah. But he's not short of a few bob himself, it turns out. Maybe we aren't that familiar with most of his oeuvre. Apart from What Is Love, but he was saying he started to, maybe I was looking a bit surprised at all his stories. He actually whipped out his briefcase and produced a sheaf of boarding passes from the flights that he'd just been on. Now, many of the boarding passes were in Cyrillic, because he'd been literally touring around Siberia doing gigs. But he also then told a story. He claims that when he goes to an airport, he never has to show his passport or any of that kind of stuff because he is such a superstar. And but he also carries a lot of money with him. And on one incident just recently, he was going through Munich and he had 40 grand in his briefcase, but unfortunately the 40 grand which he just needed for his concert expenses set off the metal detector because of all the Euro metal strips in such close proximity. So the German tax police had a look in the bag and said, oh well, I mean, you can't carry this much cash, and took him off and told him that he's going to have to write out a hefty check to the German government. And he whipped out the tax statement from the German tax authority showing the deduction that they'd made. I've never seen so much documentary evidence backing up somebody's superstar status. And he said the police then, of course, did the usual thing. They asked for a picture, which he was only too happy to provide.
Haddaway sounds like an asshole, Ken. Time for Betfair Ken Early's Euro 2008 news round. I'm just wondering a couple of things, Ken.
Right now, myself and Dr. Alban, we've got a track on the market called I Love the 90s.
I think that's harsh on Haddaway. He's a nice guy.
Has Tony O'Donoghue...
Right now, myself and Dr. Alban, we've got a track on the market called I Love the 90s.
Yeah, sounds like a really nice guy, Ken. Has Tony O'Donoghue managed to file his report back to RTE? Do you know yet? His Haddaway interview? Has it been played yet?
I'm not sure.
I'm also wondering who's up next, Ken. There was a lot of suggestions earlier on. Snap, 2 Unlimited, Scooter, something like that. Who are you heading for next? Who are you hunting?
Well, are they going to be hired by UEFA to entertain corporate guests at UEFA functions?
Well, let's hope so, Ken. Let's hope so.
Anyone who is in the firing line.